Success as a government contractor, it should be planned, right? Not left up to hope. There's a great book, maybe I'll show it to you another day, called Hope is Not a Strategy. And in government contracting, we want to follow that model as well, or that mantra as well, is that hope is not a strategy. Planning is a strategy. A strategy is a strategy, but hope is not a strategy. And today's training is about acknowledging what gets measured gets done, right? What gets measured gets done. And I want to make sure that you're defining what to measure, and then you understand that you understand how to measure what needs to get measured, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to cover three main efforts to measure. We're going to talk about daily metrics and how to track your outreach and relationship building efforts. The second thing we're going to talk about are your weekly metrics. And this one is to track your capture efforts around slam dunk opportunities. You hear me talk about slam dunk opportunities. Well, part of the reason you aim for a slam dunk opportunity is so that you can move it forward, and weekly metrics will help you do that. And then the third thing is monthly metrics. We're going to track your metrics as it relates to proposals and writing winning proposals. And so it's only a 30-minute training, and at this point now it's a 25-minute training. And we're going to go through pretty fast with a fire hose. But if you appreciate planning and what I just said makes sense, do me a favor, in the chat, put "I'm a planner." That way I know that you and I are both planners, and we're going to track on this together. If you don't know who I am, I'm Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily live federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. Last year, we did over 180 live trainings just like this that were watched over 500,000 times. I'll be live each weekday at noon Eastern, and if you'd like to join me, I'd love to have you in here with me, or you can watch the replay. Before we get started, do me a favor, one last time, help buyers remember who you are. Put your company name into the chat if you haven't done so already. Put 2 or 3 words that describe your core competencies so they and your teammates and people who are in this community know who you are, and we can learn who you are. Okay, let's get started talking about establishing daily metrics. And before we get to daily metrics, I wanted to talk about capacity, your capacity, the amount of hours you have to work. I can tell you all day long, give you advice on, hey, you need to do this in the day, and you need to be doing these things every single day. But if you don't have the capacity, the time to do something, then my advice is just going to fall flat, right? And so let's pause for a second. I want you to work this with a pen and piece of paper if you've got it, work it in your head if you don't. And at the end of this little discussion point, I want you to tell me what your capacity is. And so let's just think about this for 1 second, right? The typical day has every day has 24 hours, right? And typically we use up those hours in a way that breaks down kind of like this: 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for working, and 8 hours for all the stuff in between, which includes preparing for sleeping, preparing for work, family time, fun time, right? And other projects. I want to focus on those 8 hours that are typically spent on working. And I want to ask you, think about this, right? How much of those 8 hours are focused on sales? Because that's what we're talking about here in this training, is sales training. How much of it is focused on sales? If you're a business developer, you might think it's 8 hours. It's not, right? Look at your day. Does your boss force you to come into company meetings, staff meetings? Do you feel like you're getting pulled into meetings that are just out of your control, but you must be at them? Well, that means that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with I'm not here to tell you that there's anything wrong with how you spend your time. I want you to recognize how you spend your time. So if you had 8 hours and every day you pulled into a 1-hour meeting, well, now you got 7 hours. If you're a small business owner, maybe you're billable half the time, right? Maybe you're billable full time, and you got to figure out how to add another hour to that 8 hours. But somehow look at your day and go, how much of my time is mine to focus on daily tasks that could be moving sales forward, right? Forget about meetings, forget about being billable or having to be at a customer. How much time do you truly have that you can focus on scheduling? We call it time boxing, where you box in a set of time and say, this is mine for sales. Whatever that is, do me a favor. If you feel comfortable, put it in the chat. Let me know. Is it 4 hours, right? Is it just 1 hour a day? And the reason this is really important that you know what your time is, your capacity every day, is because as I tell you to set up daily metrics, you need to know how much time do you have to work on those daily metrics, because it'll help you adjust some of my recommendations up or down. If you have more time available, then if I say you should be doing 5 a days of something and you have more time, you should be doing 10 a days. And if you're a full-time salesperson, even though today I'm going to say 5 a days, you should be thinking 25 a days, really. But what is your time? Put that in the chat. Let me know. And let me talk about why are daily metrics so important. I said this at the beginning. What gets measured gets done. What gets measured gets done. This is really important to business owners and managers, supervisors, because if you're measuring me on this activity, then I'm going to do it because that's how you're rating me. That's how you're going to do my annual reports. But is that the most important activity? And so what I want to do is to give you some suggestions on what are some of the most important activities you could do in sales in the federal space that perhaps we don't do enough and we don't measure enough. And so the first one is, well, actually, before I get into that, I just want to talk about when you have these daily metrics in place and why it's so important is what gets measured gets done. Yes, but when you start doing something that you're measuring on yourself, whether a boss or anybody else is measuring you, when you're measuring yourself on a daily activity, you will start getting better at that activity. Every day you'll be doing it. You'll learn the skills around that activity that you're trying to do. And every day you will have a chance to practice it because you're working on it. If for any reason you have to skip a day, say you're sick and you can't do something on a given day that you have set as a daily activity, well, don't worry. You're still doing 4 times that week. You're touching it 4 times, right? And doing something, a daily activity, allows you to be able to make sure that you're getting enough of it done. There's a line I sometimes say out there that you need to do the right thing the right way and enough of the right things. Daily activity is about doing enough of those right things. So what are these best activities? I just want to give you a couple because I don't want you to overwhelm your day. I just want to give you 1 or 2 that you like and that you can do and you start doing on a regular basis. And you do this throughout the year and you will see it. So the first one is top tip that you have to do is cold call teammates and federal agency folks, right? You're in the federal market trying to sell to federal agencies. That means you're either talking to federal agency people or you're talking to teammates, people who work at companies that are small or large that you might want to work with. So if you've ever seen me talk about targeting, you should always have a list of 100 or 200 people that you want to reach out to. So one day you do research and you get 100 or 200 names, and it really should take you a couple of hours at most to put together that list. But then what I want you to do is every single day, call 5 people. This is cold calling, 5 new people. I'm not saying call your friend, call the people you've worked with in the past and you haven't talked to them in a while. These are 5 new people. Call 5 new people every single day. That's your activity. When you do that, you will call 25 people in a given week. When you do that, I don't know if you know this, there's 250 work days in 2023. You will call 1,250 people in a single year, new people, if you just call 5 people a day. We talk about don't look at the infinite, that big number of 1,250 people. I don't know if I just said 12,000, but if you 1,250 people, don't look at that number. Just look at 5 people a day. If you do that and you start tracking on it, you're going to be able to reach out to a lot of people without ever feeling like it was a big burden on you. So the first thing is call 5 people a day. That task should be a 10-minute task, unless they answer. And if they answer, don't worry about it. That's good because now you're talking to somebody and you started a new relationship. Most times when you call somebody, it's going to take 2 minutes. You got to dial them. You're going to leave a voicemail. And you're going to hang up and look for the next number and you're starting to dial again. So first thing, call 5 people a day. Second, daily metrics that I want you to do is follow up to emails or calls related to people you have been trying to reach out to. So these people you're doing cold calls, some of them, not all of them, some of them will be at the top of your list where you're like, I really need to talk to that contracting officer, right? Or that business developer at this company. Well, you want to be able to follow up. And so if you sent them an email, follow up a couple of days later. And what I'm suggesting for a daily task, something you measure yourself on, is that you spend 15, 30 minutes max where you look at the people you've reached out to before that you want to build a relationship with and you follow back up. One of the challenges we have is we're kind of okay making that first call and then we don't call back. We don't follow through. I ask people sometimes, have you followed up? Sure, I reach out every few weeks. No, if you're reaching out every few weeks, people have no clue who you are because you come in, they hear about you, they forget about you. You come in, they hear about you, they forget about you. You need to be calling them every 2 or 3 days, emailing them, engaging with them on LinkedIn, not pestering them. Go download my 30-day process for reaching out to people who haven't got back to you yet. It's 30 days of how do you follow up without pestering them, but following a process. So cold calling every day, 5 a day, follow up on emails 15 to 30 minutes. And then the last one on this is I want you to spend 15 to 30 minutes every day engaging on LinkedIn. And there's two main ways you can engage on LinkedIn. If you're not overly familiar with what I'm talking about when I say engage, it's basically go out and say hi to the people who are on LinkedIn that you care about. And the ways you do that, two ways, you can do it 100 different ways, but two ways I want you to pay attention to how to engage on LinkedIn. First is pull up your phone or pull up your LinkedIn on your computer and go to your feed, just like Facebook feed, just start scrolling through. Ignore everything that is not related to what you're trying to sell, right? Or the agency you care about, the teammates you care about. Go through the feed, right? And as you go through, just see what pops up and spend 15 minutes on that, finding posts that people have shared that you can engage with. So that's one way. Second way is on LinkedIn, you have a notification section. When you go into the notification section, these are the people you're following, right? And this is a precious section for you. So as you go through that section, the notifications, you want to scroll through and see who's posting something that is worth looking at, that you should perhaps respond to. You can give it a thumbs up. You can put a comment out. Somebody I just saw recently put out a cybersecurity document. So I engaged in it and I put a comment in and I put my opinions about something that was on page 15 and 16 or something. I'm engaging with their content and I'm coming up to on their radar and their visibility. And this is really important. And one last thing I said about protecting the notification and your feed section. I don't know what it's like in Facebook, but in LinkedIn, if you go to a post or if you look at the notification section, it has 3 dots, these tiddly dots. You can click on them. And when you click on them, it says mute this person or unfollow them. I unfollow people constantly. If they're not posting something that's related to government contracting or in some way related to the federal market world, then I don't have time to continue to engage. I don't want to see their stuff in my feed. I don't hate them. I don't dislike them. I just don't have time to see stuff about Pepsi or something, right? I mean, these things that are completely unrelated to me, stuff that might be completely out of the federal market. When it's in my feed, when it's in my notifications, it's blocking me from seeing the most important. And so I have 18,000 followers in my feed, and I'm constantly weeding it, taking out the weeds that don't need to be there. And I don't mean to insult anybody. I'm just saying some people want to see my stuff and some don't, right? Theoretically, you want to see my stuff. So I'm a good person to have in your feed, but you might not want to see, how to, Elon Musk going to Mars or something. I don't know, whatever. But so make sure you protect that feed. So if you understand some of what I'm saying, do me a favor, put 1,250 into the chat. And put that in if you understand that calling 5 people a day, every business day, will lead you to calling over 1,000 people in 2023. Imagine what could happen if you called 1,000 people in the federal market in 1 year. That'd be pretty impressive. Put 1,250 into the chat there. Okay, so let's move on to establishing some weekly metrics. So there's all sorts of metrics you can have out there. And the problem I find with sales that are put on salespeople, and I would say all of us at the moment in one way or another are sales, is that sometimes companies tend to put too heavy of metrics on us. And I discourage you from doing that. Find the metrics that matter the most and touch on those. And so here's what I'm trying to do on the weekly metric, right? I'm not trying to add a lot of metrics that things you should be tracking on here. But I want you to track on metrics related to your top opportunities, right? Your pipeline. And I want to make sure that the most important things that need to get done related to your sales pipeline, related to capture, are getting done on your slam dunk opportunities. Slam dunk opportunities are opportunities that you feel like the RFP or the RFI was written specifically for your company. We can absolutely win this. That's a slam dunk opportunity. That's the only opportunity I believe should be in your pipeline, unless there's a bigger opportunity with a task area that is a slam dunk for you, if that makes sense, right? But you should be focused on your slam dunk opportunities. And what I want you to measure weekly is, are you moving forward on those opportunities? What is the point of having a pipeline, a sales pipeline that is not moving forward? Capture is not about watching the activity happen and recording it. It's about making the activity happen and writing it down and documenting it, right? And that's capture, shaping the opportunity requirements, shaping the acquisition approach, shaping your team so that you have a winning proposal. My focus here is capture and focusing on your top opportunities so you can bring those home to a win. So here's two things I want you to do. The first one is one step forward is what I want you to focus on. I want you to, your metric every week should be to take opportunities that are within a 90-day window of dropping. And when I say dropping, I mean you expect the RFP to drop within the next 90 days. Those opportunities, yes, you should be doing stuff in the out beyond that, but I'm focused on the 90 days. These opportunities are the closest in. These are the closest to getting a proposal out the door. And so you should be moving them forward aggressively. And that's weekly metrics, weekly activity is aggressive. And so what I want you to focus on is doing one thing that moves that opportunity, each one of those opportunities, one step forward in the capture of the sales life cycle. So think about what one step forward could be, right? One step forward with a teaming partner could be getting an NDA. It could be getting a TA in place. In fact, forget the TA. It could just be getting an agreement to a TA and agreeing to the details of a TA. One step forward could be getting the contracting officer to agree or to let you know that, yes, we've been meeting internally and that date for the RFP that we expect is pretty solid. That's a good step forward because you're able to communicate it internally to your writing team and everybody else that, hey, this RFP is dropping. One step forward could be meeting with a program personnel before that RFP drops. It's wide open. You can get in there if you can get in there. But get in with a program manager. Ask them about one challenge or one objective, one thing they're trying to do. Hey, I just saw this strategic document drop for your agency. How's that reflect to the requirements you have in here? You know, any of that activity that is normal capture activity. I have a list of 50 or 100 capture steps that you should do and how to do them, right? It's not just this process thing, but they're actual tasks. Do this. Here's exactly how you do it. Well, you should have that same thing internally for your process. And so look at those capture activities and do one thing every single week for each one of those opportunities within a 90-day window that will move those opportunities one step forward. So if that makes sense, put one step forward into the chat or into the comments. Let me know that you was one step forward. So put one step forward into the chat. The second thing that I want you to focus on is for weekly metrics is come in here and review all opportunities within that 90-day window to find risks or roadblocks, hurdles, right? I talked about moving an opportunity one step forward, but these opportunities that are within a 90-day window, you need to know what the risks are. And in the beginning, those risks are huge, very high impact, right? And as you move forward and you do more capture activity, perhaps you're mitigating that risk. You're managing the risk and lowering it, but there's always going to be risk. What I'm suggesting you do is every single week, take 15, 30 minutes, look at the opportunities and go, what hurdle do we have? What risk? What's stopping us from moving forward? What's stopping us from writing the best winning proposal we could possibly write? What's going to stop us from winning? Do you understand the risk in there? And you shouldn't have to take a lot of time, right? This is not like you have to engage the program manager. You have to engage your own internal team or do it yourself and look at it and go, you know what? I don't have a clue what the actual requirements are. The RFI came out, it's in there. They're saying they're dropping in 90 days, but I still don't really have a good solid understanding of the requirements. Well, that's a risk, right? And so write it down. When you're able to document these risks on a weekly basis, they generate next week's or future week capture activities, future week one step forward things, right? So take the time to understand what's the bottleneck, the hurdle, the roadblock, the risk for each one of your opportunities that are within a 90-day window. If that makes sense, find risk in the chat. Let me know your understanding that I want you to find risks as I move into the monthly one. So find risk into the chat. So let's talk about monthly metrics because I only got 5 minutes left. And this one's related to proposals, right? So I talked about relationships and outreach. I talked about capture and opportunities. Now it's proposals. Monthly, we want to do this. So let's wrap up with monthly metrics that you can set in place that will lead to your success, right? For me, that's about winning proposals going out the door. You're not going to win anything unless you submit enough winning proposals. And for me, that number is 4 a month. I'll just tell you right out, 4 proposals a month should be what any company should aim for, okay? And it's totally okay if you're not there right now. That's what you should be aiming for. I talk about when you plan out your year, you have planned set of numbers every month. You have forecasted set of numbers and actual. Planned or what you're planning. So 4 a month. And you might say, I'm going to say January is 1, February is 2, March is 3, and by April, we're going to be at 4 a month. And after that, the plan is 4 a month. Forecast depends on reality, right? Maybe more opportunities came in that you can respond to. Maybe a couple opportunities have shifted to the right, so you can change your forecast number. And then actual is what you actually write. But you want to understand these numbers so that you can make sure you're writing 4 proposals. When I say 4 proposals, what I typically mean, and by the way, you adjust this to your situation. I'm giving you a starting set of numbers, but 4 proposals a month means 1 prime contract a month. As a small business that's been subcontracting for a while, right? I know what I'm doing. I should be able to write 1 prime contract proposal a month. And then the other 3 are subcontracts. I'm going to go get on other teams. And if I do this right, it's 3 different companies, not 1 company with 3 opportunities, 3 different companies. And I'm staggering that across relationships I have. I have a whole training on that. But when you do 3 subcontracts, now you've got 4 proposals going out the month. 4 proposals going out a month. That's vital, right? To have that metric in place. We want 4 going out a month. It's okay if you don't have them going out every month, but what it tells you is if I don't have them going out every month, there's a good chance I'm not going to hit my revenue and sales goals, right? Last thing I want you to really pay attention to is the win rate, because this ties into what I'm talking about. The win rate, and this is a loose number, right? Because it depends on your data, but loosely, when people don't have data, what I say is your win rate should be 25% or higher. 1 out of every 4 opportunities should be winning. If that's not happening, you should figure out why. And and I've done a whole training about how you can figure out why, but generally it comes back to because you're writing to RFPs that are actually not in your swim lane or your core competency, right? You're not doing slam dunk opportunities is why you tend to go below a 25% win rate. If you're prime contracting, you should be winning 1 out of every 3. And, and these numbers are like loose industry numbers out here. This guy's just telling you, right? You have to have your own data. When you start looking at that data, though, you should expect 1 out of every 4, which is why I say write 4 proposals every month, and you'll have 12 wins in a year. This is something that as you put numbers in place and as you really start doing business development and capture in a targeted agency, you will find you will be able to win those proposals at that rate. You will find you can win what you want to win. So a lot of stuff in 30 minutes. Just a quick recap. I talked about setting up daily metrics that allow you to call 1,000 people over 2023, new people, right? Set weekly metrics that'll help you make sure your proposals are well informed by moving your opportunities 1 step forward. And then the third thing is set monthly metrics around making sure you're writing enough winning proposals. So do me a favor, when you walk away and you're thinking about what's one thing I can take from this training, block out 15 minutes a day to monitor your metrics. Just 15 minutes, set it and say, I'm going to look at my metrics. And sometimes it won't take all that 15 minutes, but schedule 15 minutes every day to look at your metrics, and you will find that you are starting to improve much more beyond 2022, right? You're having the success you want in 2023. If you'd like to work with my team and me, we have a BD Accelerator workshop. We'd love to have you join if your company's in the right space. That tends to be $1 million in revenue plus already. If you want to learn more, just shoot me an email on LinkedIn. And remember, government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.